Okay, so first off, if you just want to get to look at a range of stretches, jump straight to here. Otherwise, this video is just going to be a short discussion on stretches, the different types, what they're for, and things to consider when you're selecting your stretches. Don't mind me, I'm going to be checking my notes as I go through this. First off, why do we stretch? So I like to think of your body as a car. While you could technically take your car from 0 to 100 really, really fast, 6 seconds, what have you, generally it's not advisable for most cars. Most of us are not sports cars. We're more likely to do damage, we're more likely to need repairs sooner if we don't have a complete and utter catastrophic incident to begin with. However, if you do a gentle acceleration from 0 to 100, your car or your body is going to take that much better. It has a better chance to slowly increase its capacity until it can get to 100 safely. And that is basically why we do stretching. We're taking our body from that 0, gradually getting all the muscles and joints warmed up so they can hit 100 safely and allow you to continue your workout. In the same sense, this is also why we do a cool down. So again, if you're going at 100 k's an hour, you don't want to slam on the brakes to get back to 0. Absolutely, you can do it in an emergency, or if you are a race car. But again, that's not most of us. So a cool down or a warm down at the end of a workout session, whatever it is a really good idea, because we're taking our body, from that high energy, very active, very extended state to a more relaxed and neutral state, kind of where it was before we started exercising. So it's healthier for our body in the long run. We're less prone to injury, we're less prone to body aches afterwards. And that's really why we stretch. So there are a couple of different types of stretches. The ones I'm going to talk about today are dynamic and static. So, and these kind of define what you put into your warm-up and your cool-down. So the easiest way to explain it is a static stretch is one where you hold the position. So whatever stretch you're doing, whether it's a cross-body stretch or it's a hamstring stretch, a static one is where you hold it for an extended period of time, usually between at least 6 to 10 seconds. You might hold it up to 30 seconds depending on the stretch. And the idea is that your muscle, your ligaments are relaxing as you breathe, getting used to that position. So the next time, the next day, the next week, when you use those muscles, they're comfortable with that extension. So you can go further the next time. And you're not actively activating at the time. So it's, stressed isn't the word, it's more relaxed. And so again, it's coming back to that pre-exercise state. Dynamic stretches, and these are the ones we generally see more for warm-ups, are ones where you hold the stretch for maybe 2 to 3 seconds, but you're pretty much constantly moving. So if you think, body punches or doing mini squats or a jog, that's something where your body is actively moving the whole time. It is getting a stretch. The ligaments, the muscles, the joints are all getting warmed up and ready to move, but you're not holding them for extended periods. And the idea is that with you doing a dynamic stretch, you start small and less intense generally, and you build it up so that everything is getting a little bit more stretch at a time. Imagine if you've got a piece of taffy or sugar or cheese sandwich. You want to get that nice stretch slowly over time. You don't want to do it fast and snap it. So dynamic stretches, they're great for the start in your warm-up because they're getting your muscles to go from that 0 state to the 100 state slowly, and you're building it up a little bit at a time. It doesn't mean you can't use static stretches in your warm-up or dynamic ones in your cool-down, but it is generally better to try and have it mostly dynamic at the start and mostly static at the end, just because of what we're trying to achieve with our body states after that point. All right, so in terms of what stretches to pick, what should you consider? So really, it helps if you know what you're planning to do in your workout. You want to pick stretches in the warm-up that are going to warm up those joints, those ligaments, those muscles that you're going to be using. So if you're doing a very leg-heavy workout, you want to make sure you're doing a leg-heavy warm-up. So focusing on those movements, those joints. So you might do small, less intensive versions of some of those exercises. So if you're doing, say, footwork, ashisabaki, you might do small, slow variants of those. If you're doing kendo, so you're obviously going to be doing a lot of men cuts, you might do some slow, controlled forward stretches with the arms. You're getting those muscles, those joints moving, you're getting them used to the movements they're about to do, so that when you actually get to your workout, they're not going to get stressed out, they're not going to be jerking into position, you're not going to be snapping anything. They're prepared for those movements. So really pick your stretches based on what your body's going to be doing. I mean, if you're going to be working with all your body, then try and pick something working all the way down. I usually start at the head, all the way down through to the feet. Try and pick something for everything. Same thing when you're going into your cool down. Pick your stretches based on what you have just done. You want to stretch up the muscles you were using. So again, if you had a really leg heavy day, you want to spend more time stretching out your quadriceps, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calf muscles, your feet. And you may need to do less on the upper body. It's still nice to do the upper body. It's always good to have a balance in your stretches, whether it's the warm-up or the cool-down. But you really want to make sure that the muscles that were most used have a chance to gently come back to the pre-exercise state. So there's generally different ways you can get a muscle group to stretch. Bear in mind that not all stretches are suitable for every person's body, so you may have to come up with some variants. It's very rare that there is only one way to stretch a muscle or a muscle group. You just have to look and see what's out there for the most part. A lot of stretches we do very much focus on one area of the body, so it might just be a head stretch, might be a shoulder or back or a leg. Those are all fine, but you can also look at adding in some compound stretches, which are ones that use a range of muscles. So if you think about things like what's called an inchworm, you basically put your hands on the floor and you walk out your body and then you walk your legs in, so you're using more muscles. Or if you do a squat with a medicine ball press, you're using two parts of your body. Cross-body lunge, downward dog to pike. Those are all compound exercises which allow you to warm up several different muscle groups in one time, and will generally have the added benefit of they'll probably introduce a little bit of cardio as well. So again, these are really good for your warm-up. They start getting you ready for your workout. Always bear in mind, again, as I said, not every exercise for everybody, so you have to be aware of anyone's pre-existing injuries. Always try and check, always try and find modifications, and allow a person to tell you when they have reached their limit. Everyone has very, very different limits. No one is going to be able to do the stretch to the same extension as the person next to them. So just be careful, bear those points in mind, and you should do fine. And here's going to be a range of stretches for you to look at. Obviously they're not comprehensive, there's a lot out there, but these are just a few that I can show you off the top of my head. Head and neck stretches. So you can start with a gentle up and down, looking up to the ceiling, and then coming through center back down to the floor. Then going side to side. So you're trying to extend in each direction as far as is comfortable. You can tilt down to the shoulder, so you're getting a stretch up the side of the neck. You can do a half circle forward, so kind of from shoulder to ear and around. You can do a full circle. Make sure not to crunch too much at the back. And always make sure you do everything in both directions. The static variations of this, so if you're warming down, you can put your hands laced behind your head and just use the weight of your elbow, so you're not pulling down, just to stretch out the back of the neck. So I'll show you from the side. Just let gravity do its work on the elbows. Don't forcefully pull it down. And you hold that for several seconds. You can do an upwards motion. I tend to do the pistol grip, so thumbs under chin, index fingers near the nose, and just gently pushing back. Don't let it crunch too much. So you're just opening up the neck. And again, this is one you just hold. For the side versions of these, can you take one hand, put it over the opposite ear, and stretch out the other way. You can put out the other hand to increase the stretch. Don't try pulling it down. All you're doing is just guiding, and maybe a tiny bit of pressure if you want a little bit of extra stretch. Don't drag the neck down. This is meant to be a gentle stretch. And again, you would do it on the other side too. If you want to do it with a different tilt, you can actually turn your head towards, I guess, the armpit or the floor, and that'll change the stretch angle slightly. Okay, so now we're going to look at shoulders, back, and arms. So starting with the shoulders, shoulder circles are always a good beginning. So just making sure you're making a big circle around. So you're really trying to bring the shoulder blades together, down as far as you can, up towards the ears, and back the other way. You can do air resistance, so basically putting your hands up, palms up, reaching out. And as if you've got a weight on your hands, try and push up to the ceiling. So you're creating tension and resistance with your own arms. So it doesn't have to be fast. It's more like a pulsating movement with full extension of the arms. And that's just going to warm them up. You can turn them then palms down. Do the same thing, push down against the ground as if you're in a swimming pool. Turn the palms forward, so kind of hugging forward. It's not a large movement. And then palms back. So again, with those other two air resistance, if it was palms up, just up that way, palms down that way. Can do cross the body stretch, so keep the shoulder down, arm long, pull it across. You can have the arm on the other hand on the elbow if you like. I'm getting a stretch across the back of the shoulder here. And again on the other side. For a tricep stretch, you bring one arm straight in front, try and bring it down the center of your back. I'll show you from here, so bring it up over the head. You can help guide and create more stretch with the other arm. Don't let your head tilt down too far. If you've got enough flexibility, you can use the other hand coming from beneath. Always good to start with this position and then see if you can do the reach. You can start warming up the biceps just with little bicep pumps. So clenched fists nice and tight. All we're doing is making sure they're starting to warm up a little bit. You can do a spinal rotation. This could be sitting or standing. All you're really doing is trying to turn the extreme. If you've got a chair, you can actually use the chair and your knee to rotate you around. And the other way. Again, if you're doing this as dynamic, it's probably better to do standing and just keep turning from side to side. When you're sitting, this is a really good one for a static warm down. Some lateral pulls, and this is good for warming up the shoulder blades. I'll turn to the back with this. Basically, what we're doing is focusing on the shoulder blades here, then pulling down. We raise our arms up, and we bring them down and around. So we're focusing on the squeeze down, and that's going to warm up the back muscles there. You can do this with a bar or a dowel or anything between your hands, and then you just bring it more down behind the neck and the head. All right. Now we'll go into some wrist exercises. So you can start with a wrist roll, palms together, fingers intertwined. Just rolling the wrists around. And the other way. Flexing up, so you can use your hand to push against it. You can do this against the wall, against the floor. You're just making sure that you keep that nice stacking there. Or you can do it two palms together and press them against each other. Get a slightly different flex though. Again, you can do this for flexing this way. So it's opening up the wrist. While these are more static, they're still quite good as part of a warm-up. You can also go from, I guess, prayer pose, so hands pushing against each other, and all you're doing is rotating down as far as you can and back up. So you're pressing the wrists together as you do it, and they're all that's working. So you're working on that rotation in that joint. If you want to do a bit more with the arms and the joints, you can use wool or you can use your own arm, and basically use this arm to try and push towards the opposite direction and use the other end to push the other way. So you're using your own body to create the resistance. So it's usually good to do it around the joint, around the elbow, and that's going to give it a lot of push that way. And then on the other side. And then you can also change it for pushing out. So this side is going to pull away, the arm is going to move out to its side, so you're working against yourself. This one's, I guess, what we can call prayer pose. It's a nice stretch and arm stretch. So if you've got a chair, put your arms together on it, lace the fingers together, and place your head in your hands. And if you push your head away from your hands and try and pull down with your arms, you'll get a nice stretch along the back and arms. Again, if you've got a chair, you can put your arms on the chair, try and flatten out your back, so it doesn't really matter where it is, and stretch out. Child's pose is really nice for your back and shoulders. Again, it's really nice as a warm down. You sit on the floor, you have your toes together behind you, your knees wide, you push your backside down towards your toes, and you reach out with your arms. You can also move this one off to one side, so you get a bit of a side stretch in it. Then come back through center to do the other side. If we lie flat on the floor, stomach to the floor, legs straight out, hands next to the shoulders, head facing forward. What we're going to try and do is keep our shoulders down as we push up and get a gentle stretch in the lower back. Be careful with this one if you do have any back issues. You may prefer just to go from forearms and stretch up. But if you've got a lot of flex in your back and you're comfortable, you can move the hands further in towards the shoulders and stretch up, pushing the shoulders down towards the ground. We also have cat-cow, which is good for a spinal stretch. So you have your hands and knees in 4 points, so hands straight underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Pull up through the center of your spine, create a C-curve. And then flex the other way, let your pelvis push backward, let your head come up and back. These are some exercises for your legs and hips on the floor. I'm going to start with the butterfly. So sitting down, feet come together, doesn't matter if they're far out, just wherever is you can bring them in closest. Try and grab the toes with your feet, toes with your hands, and you're focusing on pushing the knees down. That's going to open up your hip flexors. You can keep your back straight, pull up against your feet. Depending on how comfortable you are, you can actually use your hands to push down, but you might find you lose stability that way. You can also lean forward and use your elbows. So if you're doing this as a dynamic version, you might do it with a bit more of a pulse and gently release the hip flexors. If you're doing this as a static, you're holding it in place and breathing. So a very simple hamstring stretch from this position is keep one foot in there, one foot extends out in front or to the side, you can do it in either position. Leg is straight, think about pushing the heel back so the toes come back toward you, and just straight back, lean forward as far as you can with your hand while not curling your back over. So if you can reach your toes, great. If you can reach your knees, that's fine, as long as you're getting a nice long extension in the back of the leg. Again, you can do this out to the side, you can do this from a split position into here. Again, same on the other side, obviously do everything on both sides. And out here. From here you can go into a split. So again, however wide you can go, you're just opening up the hip flexors. Knees and toes, you want them to roll back behind you, pull up through the body. You can hold the position here and just breathe into it. And on every breath out, you can try and move a little bit more open or more forward. This is good for a static stretch. For a dynamic one, you can do a little rotation. So use your hands to help you circle your hips backwards and forwards. And then making sure you go the other way too. For a quad stretch, there's a few variations you can do. So if we bring one foot in towards the pelvis, we rotate around, so long leg behind us. We try and pull that foot towards the backside, and you'll get a bit of a stretch of the quad of this leg here. If you want to push it further, you can raise up onto your hips, so you're sitting up on this leg now, get more of a stretch. You can also alternatively just have them both flat on the floor, and taking it to wherever you feel best, you can come down just onto the hands with a bit of a bend and come onto the elbows. Or if you've got a lot of flex and stretch and that's feeling quite comfortable, you can come down onto your back. So again, you have the one foot in front, into the crotch, the other one as close to the backside as possible. Hands, elbows, back. And that'll be the stretch up this quadricep here. You can do a pigeon stretch. So this one's basically you try and have one foot more across the body rather than pulling in. So open out a little bit wider. Other leg goes behind and you pull up through the waist. I'll try and show you from the side. So that's not in, that's trying to come forward, and I roll over. Again, one foot in front, try and make it horizontal to the front of you, parallel to the front of you, and rolling up. You're going to have differences in what your legs are able to do, just depending on your flexibility. Okay. Hips, legs and feet. So starting with the hips, you can do hip circles, so feet wide. You can start small and going to big. So your idea is to open up the hip flexors when you come to the front, and coming to the back will stretch out your hamstrings the deeper you make them. So here, nice deep hamstring stretch. And also a nice forward open hip flexor stretch here. Going to hip circles, so standing on one leg, rotating that leg back, so a big circle. Try to open up the hip flexor, and always coming around the other way as well. So you can open your hip flexors by coming into a wide stance, feet out to the side, knees coming over the toes, opening up here. You can keep it static by sitting here. You can make it dynamic by pulsing into it or moving it side to side. Squats are really good for your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings. So feet about hip width apart, knees and toes facing forward, coming into a gentle squat, squeezing as you come up. Keep chest and head up, and just squeeze with all the glutes as you come up to the top. Lunges are good for your hamstrings. Both feet pointing the same direction. Coming straight down, so your spine ends up in line with this knee. And up. So the driving force is the back leg. Making sure the knees are staying in line with the toes, all the way up and down. That's a dynamic version. You can make it static by just holding in position. Abductors are basically for the abductor muscles on the outside of the leg. You can use a wall or a chair for balance. Basically bring one leg out to the side. This one's your supporting leg. Keeping the feet turned in and relaxed. We're raising using just this muscle here. It might help if you have your hand against, you can try pushing against it, but the rest of your leg should stay relaxed. This can also be done lying on the floor if you need to. Knee exercises. Most simplest is a knee bend, feet together underneath your hips, gently bending forward with the knees and moving them back and forth in that bend. Always start off slowly so you don't freak out the joints. Knee circles, so coming from the bend, just gentle circle rotation around in each direction. Standing quadricep stretch. One foot is supporting, pull up the other foot, bring it to your backside, try and keep it close to your backside as possible. Keep your knees together. If this is not feeling enough stretch, push that hip out a little bit to increase the stretch up the front of the leg. Standing quadricep stretch, standing quadricep stretch. One leg straight at the back, other foot extended out, toes up, bend the supporting leg. So you're getting the stretch along here. If you want to, you can lean down towards that leg and create a bit more of a stretch. Another variant for this, which is for the calf muscles here, the Gastrocnemius and streyches. Both feet pointing in one direction. Come forward or bend on the front leg. Keep the heel of the back leg on the floor and the leg straight. This is for the Gastrocnemius, which is the big meaty muscle at the top of the calf. If you've got a wall, you can lean against the wall to increase that stretch. The streyches version, so the muscle a little bit in and down, both feet facing forward, knees over toes, bend both knees, keeping your weight centered in the middle. So again, it's working this back leg. Both legs straight, pointing forward, and bend both knees, keeping the heel on the floor. Foot exercises. So you can start with a gentle pressing the ball of the foot into the floor, putting a little bit of weight on it, starting to warm it up, and rolling it back. And the same on both sides. You can do a calf raise, so both feet facing forward, knees over toes. Generally, you want to try and keep the feet close together, so squeezing the knees and the heels together, rolling up onto the balls of the feet, and then gently rolling back down. So you want to control the movement up and down. So squeeze up through the legs, the buttocks, through the core. You can use a chair or a wall for stability. You can also do this from a bent knee position. So instead it's just driving the knees forward rather than upward. Another nice foot stretch is put one foot behind you, top of the foot flat on the floor, and that'll stretch the top of the foot out. You can have a cross-body lunge, feet wide, stretching down to one foot and moving across. So if you look up to the ceiling as you reach across, you're opening up your chest as well. You can do a squat and press. This is a squat and press. So squat position, knees under hips. So squat and push up. You can use a weight in the hands if you want. And all you're doing is waking up both parts of your body, the upper and lower. Side body crunch. Supporting leg, one leg out to the side, other same arm up, keeping everything pulled up straight. Don't curl over, bringing the knee to the elbow while staying upright. You can also do this as a cross body, so opposite arm to knee. And as you pick up the pace, this also adds in as a cardio exercise. Inchworms. Depending on how much room you get, you can do this across a room. Reach up to the ceiling, bring your arms down towards the floor if you need to bend the knees. Walk the arms out, trying to keep the legs straight. So you come to a plank. Walk the legs in, again trying to keep them straight. Walk the arms out. Walk the legs in. And continue. This is the world's greatest stretch. I'm not sure I agree, but this is the world's greatest stretch. Coming down onto your knees into a plank position, nice and wide. From here, we bring one foot in and we rotate away from it, up to the ceiling, bring hand back down, leg goes back out. Let other leg in, rotate, in and down. Four-point to T extension. On your arms and legs, 4-point position, so knees under hips, hands under shoulders, fingers open wide. From here, we literally just rotate up, reaching to the ceiling, and bring it down, and around, and down. Another variant on this involves more of a shoulder stretch, so you come open. As you come in underneath, you bring it in underneath the arm and rotate down to the floor, up to the ceiling, rotate it in underneath the arm, down to the floor. You can hold it here for more of a static stretch. Similarly, you can hold this for the static component, come back in and down, hold down again for a static. This is downward dog to pike. This is good for your hamstrings, your core, your arms, your shoulders. So a good all over stretch. To start in the downward dog, hands open underneath your shoulders, press up through your feet until you make T, bring the legs in if you need to, so you're getting a nice stretch up the legs. This is your downward dog. From here, you're going to push forward with your hips until you're in a plank or a pike, and then pull it back up and forward. This is a roll down. This is great for your spine. You really need to think about your spine as the individual vertebrae. To start with, feet together, arms relaxed, bend the knees softly, breathe in through the nose, bring your chin down to your chest. Start trying to draw your forehead down to your belly. Your arms will come forward naturally. Rolling down one vertebrae at a time until you're hanging towards the floor. Bend the knees, and from the base of the spine here, one vertebrae at a time to come back up. As if you're trying to flatten against an invisible wall. Breathe in, breathe out, chin to chest, forehead to belly. Arms and shoulders will come forward. Bend at the bottom, and from the base of the spine, roll up.